So you need a new pair of prescription glasses. You decide to visit the local lens crafters. You feel overwhelmed with all the different glasses they have. The friendly staff shows you a couple of frames from different brands. She shows you Ray-Ban, Burberry, and Oakley glasses. After much consideration, you decide to go with the Oakleys. Next, the nice lady will go over a wide array of different lens options. With her assistance, you settle on the lenses that suit you perfectly. As a happy customer, you feel grateful for the assistance of the friendly staff. As without their help, you might have felt overwhelmed by the multitude of brands and options available. You leave the store feeling satisfied. But, unbeknownst to you, regardless of the choices made today, you would still be conducting business with the same company. A company that most people have never heard of. One that secretly influences every aspect of your purchase today. A company that owns most of the well-known eyewear brands, the largest lens manufacturer in the world, and countless networks of famous brick-and-mortar stores across the globe. From LensCrafters to Target Optical, from Ray-Ban to Prada. Everything is owned by one enormous mega-cooperation, Luxottica. But how is this monopoly allowed, you might ask? That's a good question. Today, here at Awakening Apes, we will delve deep into the questionable business practices of Luxottica. But before we start, how did Luxottica become the monopoly it is today? Luxottica's story starts in the 1960s, when Leonardo Del Vecchio began an apprenticeship at a small metal shop in the Italian Alps. That's when Leonardo learned everything about making eyewear. Back in the 60s, prescription glasses were made out of simple metals and plastics, and the production was outsourced by small metal shops like where Leonardo did his apprenticeship. At that time, he quit his job and started Luxottica. Leonardo envisioned producing every step, from making the frames to the lenses in-house. He developed automated molding machines to dramatically reduce the production price. This is the first time he tries to cut out his competitors. Unfortunately for him, back then glasses were more of a medical necessity than a fashion statement. So customers weren't willing to pay high prices for something medical. You probably wouldn't want to pay extra for a designer aspirin, would you? This changed through emerging pop culture and television. All of a sudden, glasses could be cool. People were willing to pay more if they could look like their idol on TV. Leonardo saw this and had a genius idea. He went out of his way to approach major fashion houses. Leonardo proposed partnership arrangements to manufacture sunglasses and prescription lenses carrying their logos. In exchange, Luxottica would receive a licensing fee. In theory, it was a win-win for both parties. Luxury fashion houses, lacking expertise in eyewear manufacturing, could expand their revenue risk-free, earning royalties only if Leonardo's idea succeeded. However, most fashion houses didn't see it that way. They feared associating their names with a product perceived more as a necessity than a desirable fashion item would negatively impact their brand. In the 1980s, Leonardo finally found his first business partner in Giorgio Armani. The first Armani glasses were retailed for up to $400. Now the customer can identify themselves with a luxury brand for only $400 without having to spend thousands on an Armani suit. After this initial proof of concept took off, it became a playbook that Leonardo repeated until Luxottica had most of the famous designer logos on his glasses. It proved to be a competitive advantage that propelled Luxottica's revenues to soar to $500 million by 1994. However, Leonardo was engaged in a risky game. The success of his licensing model relied heavily on perception, an illusion that only worked if customers believed they were purchasing Armani glasses rather than Luxottica's. Consequently, he had to ensure that his company maintained a low profile, operating discreetly. Leonardo understood that customers would be less inclined to pay $400 for a pair of glasses if they discovered they weren't crafted by the same skilled artisans responsible for $15,000 Chanel bags. This is the reason most people haven't heard of Luxottica. At this stage, Leonardo still relies on the brick-and-mortar stores that bring in his sales, so a series of hostile takeovers began. He purchased LensCrafters, Target Optical, Sunglass Hut, Pearl Optical, and so on. Today, Luxottica holds a global market share of nearly 40% of all glasses sold. In January 2017, Essilor and Luxottica announced the merger of their activities. Essilor was the biggest lens manufacturer. Now the biggest lens manufacturer and the biggest eyewear manufacturer own most of the world's optical stores. At this point, Luxottica seems untouchable. So what about small independent eye doctor offices? Well, it turns out a lot of independent eye doctors aren't as independent as you might think. Luxottica also owns VisionSource. VisionSource is a network of optometrists and ophthalmologists in North America. It is one of the largest networks of eye care professionals, comprising over 4,500 seemingly independent practices. VisionSource provides its member practices with various resources, including marketing support, access to advanced technology, and continuing education. You can even get your state-required optical certification through Luxottica's owned VisionSource platform. Crazy how Luxottica have their hands in every aspect of the industry. But surely there must be private practices that are fully independent, right? Well, yes, some do manage to stay independent. But even if you manage to stay independent, you will still have to offer Luxottica products. Unfortunately, Luxottica offers only predatory conditions if you want to sell their products independently. The conditions always come with ridiculously high minimum bulk purchases, exclusion of other products, and super low margins. Even though their production cost is minuscule, most frames probably don't cost more than a few dollars to produce. So just don't sell Luxottica products then. Well, unfortunately, most people only know 2-3 eyewear brands, and all of them are owned by Luxottica. Imagine a private practice without Ray-Ban or Oakley. Imagine selling only unknown brands for a couple $100. That's a hard sell, in my opinion. Before we end this video, I do want to mention Warby Parker. Warby Parker is the only somewhat successful eyeglass retailer independent from Luxottica. But just like Luxottica, Warby Parker has a vertical business model, meaning they try to manufacture everything within the company, which does not help independent practices. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did.